artists along the Golden Road experience the Northwest through its art and the artists who live here. Northwest artists are passionate about art, and Golden Road Arts extends their passion through education. We're on an arts mission, introducing children to art.
Hi, this is Barbara Mason, Golden Road Arts. Welcome to my studio. I'm going to show you some really simple things that you can do, hopefully with stuff you have around your house. I don't know how many supplies you have, but these are new times when we're all sort of sequestered. And if you have the things that I'm going to show you, you're going to have a lot of fun with your kids. So one of the first things I'm going to show you how to do are amazing coffee filters. And these coffee filters are colored with washable Crayola markers. And how you do this is you just take the filter, and I actually did 2 at a time because when I got it wet, it just went right through one into the other, and it was just amazing. So what we're going to do is take our Crayola markers here, and we're just going to color on it, and it doesn't really matter how. Your kids can do this, and if they're not great at it, it doesn't make any difference because when you get it wet, it all blends together. And I was actually pretty careful when I did the first one, thinking, oh, how's this going to turn out? But when I did the second one, I was not so careful because it turned out great. So you can see I'm doing pretty broad marks. The samples that I have here that we have some pictures of, they have a little more intense color on them, and they're a little more, I spend a little more time coloring them. So you can see that I have colored this, and even little kids can do this. This is pretty darn easy to do. So now I have 2 filters here, one on top of the other, and what happens is when I get this wet, it's going to go right through the one filter onto the other filter, and it's going to bleed out. I was shocked when I did this at how well it bled. So I'm going to just spray it, and you can see already it's starting to bleed. It doesn't take much. So as I'm spraying the water on it, it's bleeding. And the more it sits wet, the more it bleeds. And the amazing thing is, it goes right through to the second. I can get them apart now. I did such a good job of lining them up that they're not coming apart. It goes right through to the second coffee filter. Look at that. So it's also going to have the color on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this dry, and when it's dry I'll peel it off of this piece of newspaper, and we'll have our beautiful coffee filter. And so what you can make with this is you can make these into flowers. I mean, they make great flowers. They're so beautifully colored. So you just do this and a piece of tape, and you're ready to go. Or you could make it into, it would be pretty good as a butterfly too. A hair bow. They're just unlimited to the amount of things you can do with these. You won't have any problem thinking of things that you can do with them once you have them colored. So one of the things that I want to talk about today is color separation. Children don't really understand that 2 colors make a 3rd color. And so I'm going to do a real simple process that will demonstrate that. And if there's one thing kids like to do, it's squirt paint. And so I have a salad spinner right here. And on the bottom of the salad spinner, I have a piece of paper. This is kind of heavy paper, cardstock. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take yellow. This is just poster paint, Crayola. And I'm going to, I think that almost everybody carries this paint. I'm going to put just a little bit of yellow in here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of red. And so if you're an adult, you know that if you take yellow and red and you mix them together, you're going to get orange. But a child might not know that. But after they do this, they're going to remember it because number 1, it's so much fun, and number 2, it was pretty darn easy to do. And once they start doing this, I want to just keep doing it. So you're going to have lots and lots of paper. Okay, how does this work here? I've already forgot how it works. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to start to spin, and that paint is going everywhere. It's going to be really pretty. Okay, so I'm going to take the top off of this, and we're going to take our masterpiece out. And you can see that we have our yellow and our red, which is really kind of a magenta, and then you can see we've got orange, which is really, really a beautiful color. So I'm going to just put this over here to dry. Try to wipe the ink off of myself. And so if we do yellow and blue, we should get green. And the kids are going to love doing this. Mostly they're going to love making a big mess. Now I'm going to encourage these to mix together just a little bit so that I'm sure I get some green. These, I put a little bit of water in these paints to make them a little thinner, and because I did that, I think they might be just a little different weight. And so the yellow just seems to be laying on top of the other color. But let's see what's happened if we get some green here. Oh my gosh, we got some green. Oh, this is really fun. I'm liking this. So there's our masterpiece. Pretty cool. So, and then of course we have to clean our tub. And the easiest thing to do to clean something like this is just take the whole thing in the sink and fill it full of water. And it will, we'll clean it up. And the good thing about poster paint is it's totally water soluble. So even if it dries, in there, I'll be able to clean it up. Now another thing you can do with the same idea is you can take a piece of, this is a pretty heavy piece of cardstock. You can do this on lighter weight paper, but it doesn't hold up quite as well. So we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to take our ink. We're going to do a little yellow. Maybe a little more yellow on this side. I'm going to do our red. Be down just a little lower. And then we're going to do our blue. So in theory, we should get all the colors with these three colors. Come on, blue. There we go. And now what you do to make this work is you just take a comb, and I just happen to have this really big comb, so you can really see it with this big comb, how it's going to mix together. And then if you get a smaller comb, and then I'm just going to throw my comb in a tub of water. I'm not going to spend any time futzing trying to clean it off. Whoa, look at that. And of course, when you go back, you've got stuff on there from where you did it before. And depending on how many times you do it and which type of a comb you use, you could do some that was like this. I had a comb, so I've got one more. You could do stuff that was just plain. I like the wiggly better. And there we have. I'm going to do this a little bit here. We've got one comb left. And of course the kids want to do just what I do. They want to just keep doing it until they have mud. But when you start out with pretty colors, even when it gets muddy, it looks pretty good. And then of course you have to let this dry. But the children love doing this kind of work, and it's just very simple to do. The other thing that we're going to do is I have a piece of paper. This is watercolor paper. You could use the cardstock, but watercolor paper will, of course, accept the water easier. And then what I'm going to do on this watercolor paper is I'm going to make these little circles. And what I did is I took a paper cup and I cut off a cottage cheese carton so it wasn't so high. And I just have some ink in here, paint. And then I'm going to take this, dip it in that, and then I'm going to start making these circles on here. And you can make quite a few circles before you have to go back and get more. So what you're doing with all these circles is you're making little sections. And then when your sections are dry, you can take watercolors and you can color each one of these. Now I've got, the paints I have are regular watercolor paints that are dry. They come in a pan like this, where each pan is a color on its own. And the best way to get these to work is to kind of soften them up to begin with, get a little water in them. Because, you know, if you just start trying to make them work and they're not, kind of have to reconstitute them so that they're easier to use. So we're just going to put a little water in each one. And then we're going to just take each color and we're going to paint each section a different color. So what you want to do is probably do all your orange sections at once. You can say, okay, well, I want that to be orange and I want this to be orange. You know, this is really good hand and eye control for kids to learn to use a paintbrush. Put the paint where they want it. If you just use the tip of the brush, not only will the brush last longer, but you'll have a little more control. So you do it, you put the point of the brush down and then you push the rest of the brush down. And then if you're going to go to a different color, you want to get clean your brush off in the water. So I do a lot of stuff in the classroom with children. And one of the things that I do when I'm working in a classroom is I never let the children go to the sink, because if you get 20 kids in the sink at the same time, it's not fun. Well, maybe fun for them, but not fun for you, and not fun for the floor. So what I usually do is I have 2 buckets, and I have clean water in one bucket and dirty water in the other bucket. So they take their cottage cheese container or whatever small container you want to use. Cottage cheese containers are pretty good because they're flat on the bottom, and if you don't fill them real full, they can hold enough water. And sometimes those little containers that you get for butter would be good too, but I think the cottage cheese are better. You know, something that's this size. I don't know if you can see it right here, it's this size. And so you just go from one color to the other, and as you go along here, you just paint each section a different color. This is pretty easy to do, and immensely fun for the kids. It takes a long time for them to do all the sections. And you know, if you didn't want to do this with paint, you could have them just do it with markers or crayons. But the whole idea of painting is learning to use a brush, learning to get some control. And at first they'll be all over the place. But the advantage of having these sections is if you mess up and you get it over the line, this line is pretty thick. And so it doesn't show if you got the paint in the wrong place. Okay, so let's do some green. We don't have green. So you can see how easy this is and how pretty it is. And the kids love it because they've been pretty successful doing this. And if they go over a line and they get 2 sections the same color, it just doesn't matter because it's your art. And the good thing about your art is it can be any way you want it to be. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be in the lines. Well, in the lines a little bit maybe. But the whole idea is you're making your own work, and it can be the way you want it, which is a good thing. You know, learning to do art. You know, art is a learned thing, and no one was born knowing how to read, and nobody was born knowing how to do art. You have to learn to do it. And so painting like this, using the brush and painting one color over the other, it's a great way to learn control. And making art really is about control. We don't have red. Let's get some red in there. So now you've watched me paint. I like doing this too. I'm just like one of the kids. I like painting all the things a different color. I mean, how fun is this? You know, they have crayon books for adults, and, you know, we know why. It's fun. We all like to do it. Is there any of you out there that are closet crayon people? You have your color book hidden in the closet, huh? So you can see how pretty this is and how much the children will like doing it. So when they get done and they've got all the colors on here, they have a beautiful piece of artwork with minimal work, except for, of course, the painting. But the good thing is that the skill they're learning with the painting and handling the brush, and I give them a paper towel right here beside them that they can blot their brush on, so that if their water gets too dirty, they take their bucket of water and they take it and dump it in the dirty water bucket and get some clean water out of the clean water bucket and come back to their seat. And so it's a great thing for a class, simple to do, and a lot of fun. So that's all we have today for Golden Road Arts. Thank you for being here, and I hope this is a great fun project for your children.